Todo lo que quieras, pero dime qué es lo que quieres que diga. Pues a los que entienden solo el español, que el pueblo asirio es un pueblo vivo, es un pueblo rico de historia, es un pueblo generoso, que ha dado mucho a la historia y es un pueblo que puede sorprender por su riqueza cultural, histórica y lingüística.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Assyrian Podcast. This is Steve, and I just landed from Phoenix, Arizona, where I attended the National Assyrian Convention, and it was an absolute blast. My favorite part was meeting so many of you who listen to the podcast from all over the world. A huge shout out to Asher Sergis, who listens while working graveyard in Modesto, and so many of you in Germany and Sweden. Also, Odessa and I were on a panel with Stephanie Youssef of the Assyrian Star magazine and Joe Snell of the Assyrian Journal. So many good questions came our way, and they really help us as we continue to form and shape the Assyrian podcast. I had several moments this weekend where I was taken back by the value this podcast brings to our community and the stories so many of you shared at the convention. Also, we hope you enjoyed the Assyrian Podcast sunglasses and the Assyrian Podcast cups that we gave away. The sunglasses lasted all but 2 minutes at the convention pool area, so that was awesome. Now, if you heard the episode intro, you might be thinking, what happened to the Assyrian Podcast? Rest assured, this episode is an Assyrian man named Dr. Efrem Yildiz, who is the Vice Chancellor and Professor at the prestigious University of Salamanca in Spain. Dr. Yildiz has been teaching Assyrian language, literature, and history since 1994, and I had the privilege of interviewing him several months ago at the Assyrian National Policy Conference, and now I get to bring it here to the podcast. This guy is another one of those Assyrian giants that many Assyrians simply don't know about, and we are so proud to be able to bring his work to you here on the podcast. Now, before I air the episode, I want to ask you and encourage you to show your love by subscribing to the podcast, like us on social media, and tell more and more of your friends and families about our worldwide Assyrian podcast community. And now, here is Dr. Efrem Yildiz. Where are you from? How did you get into this field?
Well, I'm from northern Assyria, which is between southeastern Turkey and northern Iraq. And the village I come from is Harbule. Probably most part of the Assyrian community do not know where Harbule is located. It's in southeastern Turkey, is on the border between Iraq, northern Iraq and southeastern Turkey. And then, I moved from there to Germany, finished the school in Germany, and then from Germany I got a scholarship to Italy. I finished my university studies at the University of Italy. Meanwhile, I have been in France. Then I had a bit of formation, even as I have been doing biblical studies, I have in Israel.
Wait, you did biblical studies in Israel?
No, in Italy.
In Italy?
Yeah. And in order to strengthen the modern Hebrew, I spent some months also in Israel. And then I moved to Spain. And since 1994, I'm living in Spain. And I'm teaching our language, literature, and history at the University of Salamanca.
From northern Assyria to Spain, the University of Salamanca, and from 1994. So that means all these years you've been based in Spain.
Yes.
And what exactly are you teaching about Assyrians in Spain that people would be interested in?
Well, when I moved from Italy to Spain, I tried to look for a city where there could be a university with Semitic tradition.
What do you mean by Semitic tradition?
Semitic tradition, which means where Hebrew, Aramaic, Assyrian language, and so on are taught. When I came to the university, there were only a course, which was biblical Aramaic. And I started building up, and now we have a whole specialization about the language, literary texts, and even complementary courses like Assyrian patrimony or traditions and Aramaic speaking cultures and so on.
So is this modern Assyrian or ancient Assyrian?
We teach modern, let's say, Assyrian Aramaic, ancient, late, and modern one. We have 3 years of language.
I see. And so the ancient is going to be important because they're looking at archaeological digs and the ancient work, and they're trying to understand what that society...
Well, we do not deal directly with the archaeological things, but yes, the ancient sources, yes. For example, the first texts we have or we use as exercises for our students they date back to the 11th century BC. And from then onward, but the biggest part which we use for the students is from the 3rd until the 14th century for the late Aramaic, and then from then onward until now it's the modern one. So we teach a whole year modern Assyrian Aramaic.
So university students in Spain are learning about modern Aramaic language.
Absolutely.
And what value is that in there for them?
It's like a jewel, because they are discovering many aspects that nobody has spoken before. And they are discovering people like Assyrian people, for them they were just a died people.
I see. So they're surprised that we're still around.
Absolutely. Yeah. So in that sense, it's. But my main purpose was to create a center where Assyrian young generation could have the chance to study their own patrimony, linguistic, literary, and historical one. That was the main reason why I already started many years ago building the whole, let's say, study plans, because it's a degree. And now last year we have had the first PhD upon the status of the School of Nisibis, which have been analyzed by one of my students.
And the School of Nisibis, for our audience that doesn't necessarily familiar,
probably it's the first university.
We're talking 330, 350, I don't know the dates.
No, the foundation more or less goes back to the 5th century, probably to the 489 around that period, when Marnar Say left Orhai, Edessa, and he just really transferred the knowledge and the method of teaching from Orhai, from Edessa to Nisibis.
Just a quick shout out, one of our hosts is named Edessa, so we appreciate that historical vantage point.
Good.
So this is the first time where a PhD student in Spain.
Yeah.
But because I don't know of anybody else that's gone deep into the School of Nisibis to the point of...
No, there are works done by other foreign PhD students and also authors. It's a well-known university, but not among the Assyrian people. And
Salamanca is?
Salamanca is, for instance, the leader in that sense for the Spanish universities.
Interesting. It's so fascinating. And going back to the PhD who got his PhD in the School of Nisibis, so tell us, what did they find?
Well, as the PhD was done in a faculty which deals with the language, linguistic, and history, we emphasized the study on the technical words that were used as references for a structure, how Rabbeita or Madabrana or Mpashkana, what the words mean for that period, and how they were kept until the Middle Age. And secondly, the main topics that were mentioned or announced in that speech of the foundation, because the statues are related to a kind of speech of Barhdab Shabba Arbaya, who makes the inauguration speech when the school started the first semester. The idea, for example, of summer and winter semester comes from the School of Nisibis, and it was introduced in Europe through Bologna University.
Which university?
Bologna.
Oh.
You know, in Europe or in Western world, there are four ancient universities: Bologna, Oxford, Paris, and Salamanca.
I had no idea about this underground of how the universities work and their history.
But this is the historical reality. Indeed, now we are celebrating our 800 years of history this year.
So the University of Salamanca has been around for 800 years.
No, for not around 800 years we are now this year. It was founded in 1218. So, and we have a big Semitic tradition at the University of Salamanca, but it's not so well known, especially among the Assyrian community, because it's located in Spain and not many people know about that.
And when did you, how did you make the transition from becoming a teacher there?
Well, it's a state university. You have to submit yourself to different exams, competitions, because when I finished my studies, I just tried to enter by my own, and gradually, there's a process of first you become a kind of.
And you wanted to teach there. You felt like that was a highly awesome place for you to be.
That's why I made the choice to stay in Salamanca, because I saw that was a potential place where I could develop what I was dreaming for.
And you have now.
Well, hopefully, I hope that I achieved it. Yeah, my goal was to create a kind of center for our community, thinking upon the new generation, if they want to learn about their language, their history, their literature, their patrimony, historical, cultural patrimony, they should have somewhere where to cultivate it and where to learn it. And that was the main reason.
So if you're an Assyrian and you're in college and you can do a study abroad program, they should come to see you.
I hope so. The main idea was thought in this way, and I announced it a long time ago. Once I finished the whole basis, because I did all this process in a silent way, in order to create a basis which should be solid. And once the basis is done, now we can talk about such initiative. And this initiative is a golden occasion for our people.
That's so exciting. I mean, that I didn't know about this program. You're right. A lot of Assyrians simply don't even know that there's a Assyrian professor at the University of Salamanca teaching modern Assyrian studies, modern Assyrian language, as well as ancient Assyrian.
Yeah.
And one of your dreams is to see young Assyrians who are in college to come out there and to get a deep dive.
In reality, this is the main goal. And I hope that probably in the future, in the coming future, that some Assyrian young ladies and also boys, let's say, will have the chance to get deep in their own heritage. And this is the only way and one of the best ways. And that's why we should have a basis where to cultivate them, where to study them, where to learn them, and where we have to transmit them.
Mm-hmm. And so you're all very developed curriculum.
Absolutely, yeah.
Can you tell us what one of your favorite lessons is to teach?
When I try to tell them how many cultures are Aramaic speaking people, because there's a big confusion. For example, this is one of the best of them. When I talk about typical Assyrian traditions, because we have also optional courses, not only obligatory courses, but especially when I get through the huge amount of literary production from the 3rd until the 14th century, where you can have a huge opportunity to learn about your own treasury, about your own patrimony, where you can learn a lot.
When you say the word patrimony, what do you mean by that?
It means
like ancestral roots?
this one of the points, but also patrimony. It includes many aspects: linguistic,
I see.
historical, liturgical. Why not? Cultural and aspects, and this makes the whole patrimony of a people.
So going back to the school of Nispus, that school and at those times they were influencing the church a lot.
I mean, you should know that when the schools were founded, usually they were founded in monasteries at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But then there were centers like Edessa or Nisibis or even Slechtispon, which were sponsored by the royal court. And Nisibis it belonged to the church, but at the same time it was sponsored by the Persian, let's say, royal court.
So there was a relationship there, and somehow they made it work.
I mean, it was not only a kind of school where theology, history and so on were taught, but also there were other issues or subjects like translation.
So they were translating Greek or Hebrew or...
No, from Greek into Assyrian Aramaic.
What were they translating?
For example, all the Greek philosophy, Aristotelianism came to the Arabs thanks to our people who translated from Greek into Aramaic and from Aramaic into Arabic.
Okay, we got to hear that again. So if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're saying is that it was the Assyrian people who translated the Greek into Aramaic and then into Arabic for the Islamic world to be able to...
No, today is improved. It's not just a kind of possibility. We know even the names of the authors who translated the texts.
Okay.
So many stuff has been published upon these topics.
Now, this brings up a question for me that I like to ask people who are on the Assyrian podcast, and especially if it's an intellectual, an educator. There are questions out there about Assyrian continuity, and it's fair to even mention this because there's books written on the topic. So when you say things like, well, back in the 4th or 5th century, Assyrian people were translating from Greek into Aramaic and then into Arabic, would those people have identified as Assyrian or not? And if they didn't, does that matter?
Well, since the Assyrian community was converted into Christianity, there were two important issues that were mingled. First, the two powers, let's say, spiritual and material power, was fused in a figure of, let's say, of patriarch. When the Assyrians were converted to Christianity, we had a head of the church. And the head of the church, as we lost long time ago our independence, Nineveh, after the fall of Nineveh,
right.
612 onward, then at the beginning, when we were converted to the Christianity, the head, the leader of the community had two different functions, let's say, or powers, spiritual one and also the material one. And they were fused in the figure of the patriarch.
Yeah, church and state, basically.
Exactly.
He
But
ran...
this was the only way to survive.
Mm-hmm.
So, but as far as the name is concerned, we can show today that the Assyrian name was never forgotten. There's now a kind of discussion upon whether the Assyrian name was kept at that period. Of course, we know that Hadiab was a kingdom, but Ashur also was at the same time a kingdom. And we have even chronicles where, for example, the Doctorate of Ad-Daimari, these kingdoms are mentioned in a natural way. So what I do not understand now is this discussion whether the name has been invented when the Americans and the Anglicans were in the northern Assyria, northern Mesopotamia. I think we don't know so much about our own history. But in order to know in a deep way how the historical development of our own history or the Assyrian history is we have to base our knowledge, our information on the sources we have.
Right. We go with what's there.
Yeah. And the sources are this. They continue to talk about the Assyrian continuity, the name. But let's give a message to our different Assyrian brothers who call themselves Chaldeans, Syriacs, Arameans, and so on. The name shouldn't be a problem. What for me is a big problem is to be so far from what we are looking for. We are not fighting in the same way and for the same purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And the only issue which has divided us is in reality is only a name question. And this division is not a recent topic. It dates back even to the, let's say, 6th century, the end of 5th century, beginning of the 6th century. We have told about Marnarsey was forced to fly from Edessa to Nisibi because there were problems in the community, and the division started there. Afterwards, gradually, the division was becoming bigger and bigger, and at the end, in the 16th century, the so-called Ayat al-Madanha group again divided, 1553. No?
Yep.
Again, now a name came again, like the Chaldean church and so on. But denying the historical facts, this is what is, in my opinion, the sad part of the whole process.
Yeah. Well, I think it's inevitable for human beings to have division.
No, but that makes part of the human being. That's okay.
Exactly, yeah.
But we should not try to change the history according to our own histories. I can't allow that.
So you're, as an educator, as an academic, the pain point for you is if we're going to have these conversations, then we need to look at the true history, the true facts.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Otherwise, you are not going to know how the real reality has taken place, and it is. And we have enough sources to show the continuity of this people, Assyrian people who were divided into different branches. Syriac Orthodox Church, Chaldean Church, the Church of the East, and then the Syriac Catholic Church, and then the so-called Jacobites, Nestorians, and then Protestants, and so on. But this makes part of the process of an evolution.
Sure. So I've always felt the same way, that the diversity reveals a certain bit of health, a certain bit of healthy conversation, that people are actually thinking outside the box, they're challenging their own upbringing, their own system, which is awesome, especially when it leads to other fruitful avenues. But I think a pressing question that many folks would be interested in hearing about is Assyrian Church of the East is the ancient church. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but when you read the historical texts and you understand the historical liturgy and you think about the current state of these different churches, not just the Assyrian Church of the East, Chaldean Church, Jacobite, whatever it might be, do you sense that these are aligned with the ancient essence? Or would you say like, hey, it's a whole different world, everything has changed?
Each time a new thing happens, you have always to take that starting point as a reference. So let's go back now to the Eastern Church, or the Church of the East. Now, the Church of the East belongs to the so-called apostolic churches. We have at least 6 apostolic church seats, let's say. Jerusalem, Antiochia, Constantinople, Rome, and in Egypt, Alexandria, and Seleucid Ctesiphon. Okay?
That last one is the hardest one to pronounce. How do you say it?
Seleucid Ctesiphon, which was the capital of the Parthian kingdom at that period. So each part of these churches have their own way of transmitting their faith. Christ is the same, but the way, the language, the traditions that are used are a bit different. And that makes sense. The diversity should be understood as a richness. Okay, this is the first step. So we have always to go back in order to understand our presence. And we have also, meanwhile, you make this progress of understanding your historical evolution from the beginning until now, you see that there were, the human condition, it belongs to the human condition to be separated, to suffer divisions, and so on. Even in the best families you discuss, no?
Yeah.
And that makes part. And I see this kind of divisions in this way and according to the Spirit. But now it's time to put the forces together. Now it's time to look for what we are dreaming for, becoming a people, a territory, a nation, and so on. If we are divided, the others who are our neighbors, now the Kurds and so on, are taking our lands, and we are discussing still about whether we are Assyrians, Chaldeans, Arameans, and so on. This is the sad thing. What we should do is concentrate our efforts on how to keep alive the continuity of such a people who has been suffering for centuries.
Why should we keep it alive?
I mean, everybody has a dream. If you don't fight for a dream, at the end you will vanish. No? And the human being has been always looking for continuity. And this continuity needs an identity. This identity needs a place, a language, a face, and so on.
So you're saying, why not the Assyrian people to bring a new reality to the human existence by having their own nation and land?
New reality? No, it's just a reality. Don't call it new. It hasn't been created from zero. It's a reality that it's still there. It has been there. It was there, and hopefully it will continue being there. The only thing is we haven't learned from the history is to some forces. We suffer under this, how would I say, complex of Semitic identity.
But when I think about the ancient Assyrians, that was what made them great. Their ability to all come under the ideology of Ashur or Atur. Wasn't that like the first time in human history where it didn't matter what church you went to, it didn't matter who your gods were, what mattered is that you submitted to the ideology of the supreme God?
In order to explain myself, you should go back, far back. Let's start from the first step when a small community, a family started growing, becoming stronger, and another one has been also trying, to become big, and so on. And now the forces started measuring who is the strongest one, who is the leader, and so on. This is the first we call this phase. We call it the tribal system. From the tribal system, you made another step to confederations, because there was a strong group and there were other small groups, and they knew that if they don't put the forces together, they would just be losing the whole time.
Right.
From the confederation period, then we gain let's say a monarchic, small kingdoms. Every kingdom has its own territory, language, identity, gods, and so on. And from that part, the Assyrians were the first who started creating a bigger and wider one. The imperial idea started by Sargon the Wise, where he decided to protect, let's say, other small kingdoms, ensuring them continuity, security, but they were paying their tributes. So, and doing this, he also, each time you have a central power, the main god is of the central power. The cult is worshipping, it was the Shemish or Sin or Ashur and so on. But this is a process of historical evolution. But now, coming back to the Christian era, there's a new, let's say, era where a common God is worshipped by different people. And a common God is understood in different ways. And these different ways, we are probably, we are not the unique, but one of the few people who haven't been able to understand from the past in order to organize ourselves better in the 21st century.
Makes perfect sense to me, and I'm so thankful that we've been able to have this conversation to learn more about the work you're doing at the University of Salamanca. And this is the kind of conversation, I believe, as you've stated, like young people can dive deeper and bring an intelligent perspective, bring one that's based in historical reality. And so we thank you for all the work that you're doing. Now, one of the things I like to ask anybody who's on the Assyrian podcast is, if you could say one thing to all the Assyrians all around the world that listen to the podcast, what would you say to them?
Well, this word should be said in our own language. Habba, huyada, wayuta. Which means love, union, and harmony. If we have these three elements, we can become a strong and a big nation.
Love, unity, and harmony.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. And can you send us also something in Spanish?
Todo lo que quieras, pero dime qué es lo que quieres que diga. Pues a los que entienden solo el español, que el pueblo asirio es un pueblo vivo, es un pueblo rico de historia, es un pueblo generoso, que ha dado mucho a la historia y es un pueblo que puede sorprender por su riqueza cultural, histórica y lingüística.
And I will translate that as soon as I get home. So, one other thing, if we want to get a hold of you, how can we find you?
It's very easy. Efrem Yildiz, University of Salamanca. As you said, I'm now the Vice President for International Relations. And the only branch which is now a reference for Europe is the Hebrew and Aramaic Studies department. So you are most welcome. Whoever wants to learn already in a deep way the ancient, late, and modern Assyrian language, he will be most welcome. And I think this is a quite nice place. It's a wonderful city, a historical city as well. And the life of students is a huge one. Salamanca can't be understood without their students. And about 40,000 students we do have at Salamanca.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for being on the show, and hopefully we'll catch up with you in Spain next time.
Taudilach, thank you
All right.
for this wonderful interview, and I hope that it will be useful for our new generation, and probably somebody will be encouraged to start, as we have been doing a long time ago, to start studying our language, literature, and history. We need Assyrian young people who must also get in touch in a deep way with their own, as I tell you, patrimony, heritage.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the treasure we have.